In the early hours of May 23, 1618, in the city of Prague, a seemingly bizarre and almost surreal event took place that would set all of Europe ablaze for the next 30 years. In the heart of Bohemia, a group of Protestant nobles threw two high-ranking Catholic officials from a window of Prague Castle. This act, known as the Defenestration of Prague, might seem like a localized rebellion, but its consequences rippled across Europe, igniting the 30 Years' War, one of the most destructive conflicts in European history. To fully understand the significance of this defenestration, we must first explore the religious and political landscape of Europe in the early 17th century. Europe, especially the Holy Roman Empire, was divided along religious lines between Catholics and Protestants. The Protestant Reformation, initiated in the early 1500s by Martin Luther, had shattered the religious unity of Christendom, leading to decades of political and religious strife. By 1618, the Holy Roman Empire, a sprawling multi-ethnic entity ruled by the Catholic Habsburg dynasty, was simmering with unrest. The Peace of Augsburg, signed in 1555, had temporarily quelled religious tensions by allowing the princes of the empire to choose either Catholicism or Lutheranism as the official religion of their territories. However, this treaty had left many unresolved issues, and tensions between Catholics and Protestants continued to simmer. Bohemia, located in the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, had become a flashpoint for this religious conflict. Although ruled by the Catholic Habsburgs, a significant portion of Bohemia's population was Protestant. The Bohemian nobility, especially, had embraced the Protestant faith, and they enjoyed certain religious freedoms guaranteed by the Letter of Majesty, issued by Emperor Rudolph II in 1609. This document had granted religious tolerance to Protestants in Bohemia, allowing them to build churches and practice their faith freely. But in 1617, Ferdinand II, a staunchly Catholic Habsburg prince, ascended to the throne of Bohemia. Ferdinand was determined to restore Catholicism throughout his territories and saw the Protestant movement as a threat to both his authority and the unity of the empire. His attempts to revoke the religious freedoms granted to Protestants in Bohemia pushed the already tense situation toward the brink of conflict. By 1618, Ferdinand's policies had already begun to alienate the Protestant nobility of Bohemia. Several Protestant churches had been closed down by Catholic authorities, which the Protestant nobles saw as a direct violation of their rights. When the construction of Protestant churches on royal land was forbidden by Catholic officials, the Protestants feared that Ferdinand would continue to erode their freedoms. In May of 1618, tensions reached a boiling point. A group of Protestant nobles, frustrated with Ferdinand's rule and determined to defend their religious freedoms, decided to take action. Led by Count Jindřich Matthias Thurn, these nobles gathered in Prague to confront the Catholic officials who they believed were responsible for the recent persecution of Protestants. On May 23, 1618, they marched to Prague Castle, where they confronted two of Ferdinand's chief representatives, Count Jaroslav Borzida of Martinus and Count Vilém Slavata of Chlum. These two Catholic nobles were regarded as the enforcers of Ferdinand's anti-Protestant policies, and they became the immediate targets of the Protestant nobles' anger. Inside a grand hall within Prague Castle, the Protestant nobles accused Martinus and Slavata of violating the Letter of Majesty and infringing upon their religious rights. Tempers flared, and the meeting quickly devolved into chaos. The Protestant leaders, feeling that words alone would not be enough, decided to take matters into their own hands. In a dramatic and violent gesture, the Protestant nobles seized Martinus and Slavata, dragging them toward a window on the third floor of the castle. Without hesitation, the nobles threw both Catholic officials out of the window, a fall of nearly 70 feet, 21 meters. The secretary, Philip Fabricius, was also thrown out, as the angry mob wanted to send a clear message. Miraculously, all three men survived the fall. According to Catholic accounts, they were saved by divine intervention, with the Virgin Mary herself ensuring their safety. Protestant accounts, however, offered a more mundane explanation. They had simply landed in a large pile of manure that had accumulated in the moat below the castle. The Defenestration of Prague was not just an isolated act of rebellion. It was the spark that ignited a much larger conflict. The Protestant nobles who carried out the defenestration immediately took steps to consolidate their power. They established a provisional government and declared open rebellion against Ferdinand II, rejecting his rule over Bohemia. The defenestration led to the Bohemian Revolt, the opening phase of what would become the 30 Years' War. The Bohemian rebels, fearing retribution from Ferdinand, sought military and political support from Protestant rulers across Europe. In particular, they offered the throne of Bohemia to Frederick Futh, Elector Palatine, a prominent Protestant prince. Ferdinand II, however, was not about to let this challenge go unanswered. As Holy Roman Emperor, he had the resources and alliances necessary to crush the rebellion. The stage was set for a massive and bloody conflict, and the Bohemian Revolt quickly spiraled into a full-scale war involving many of Europe's most powerful states. The Defenestration of Prague and the Bohemian Revolt marked the beginning of the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, a conflict that would engulf much of Europe and devastate entire regions. What started as a local rebellion soon became a war of religion, political power, and territorial ambition. The war quickly spread beyond Bohemia, drawing in Protestant and Catholic states from across the Holy Roman Empire, as well as foreign powers like Spain, Sweden, Denmark, and France. Each of these powers had its own reasons for entering the conflict. Some were driven by religious zeal, while others sought to expand their territories or weaken their rivals. For Bohemia, the war brought devastation. In 1620, Ferdinand's forces, aided by Catholic allies, decisively defeated the Bohemian rebels at the Battle of White Mountain, a crushing blow that marked the end of the Bohemian Revolt. After the defeat, the Habsburgs ruthlessly reasserted their control over Bohemia. The leaders of the rebellion were executed, Protestantism was suppressed, and Bohemia was forcibly re-Catholicized. Yet the war raged on, and it would not end until the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. By the time the war concluded, millions had died, and the political map of Europe had been irreversibly altered. The Defenestration of Prague stands as a pivotal moment in European history, not because of the act itself, but because of its far-reaching consequences. The 30 Years' War that followed was one of the longest and most destructive conflicts in European history, reshaping borders, religious tolerance, and the balance of power across the continent. The defenestration became a symbol of resistance against oppression, particularly in Bohemian history. The word defenestration, which means the act of throwing someone out of a window, has come to represent radical opposition to authority, and Prague itself has witnessed several more defenestrations throughout its history, each tied to moments of political upheaval. While the Defenestration of Prague may seem like a small, localized event, it serves as a reminder of how seemingly minor acts of rebellion can set off massive, world-changing events. For the people of Bohemia, it was a desperate attempt to defend their religious freedoms. For Europe, it was the spark that ignited 3 decades of bloodshed and political upheaval. The Defenestration of Prague, a dramatic act of defiance, became a catalyst for one of history's most devastating wars. What began as a protest against religious repression would plunge Europe into chaos for 30 years, changing the political landscape forever. If you want to learn more about pivotal events like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating historical stories.